So stepping in at Software Testing Conference North today was Duncan Nisbet, who is at Test Agility, a test coach, and he was talking at entertaining and sometimes scary length about the things that can happen when you're setting up a SAFe framework, the Scaled Agile framework, and it's not all quite there. Can you give us a feeling about, a lot of people hearing about the Scaled Agile framework now and that they need to do it, and for various reasons they might be going into it. What do people who are at that level where they're saying they need to do it and their staff need to do it, what do they need to be aware of before they put that in place?
Of course, hi. So being a practitioner of the people who are having to implement SAFe, it's interesting to see the culture and the context in which that SAFe is being applied. So the context that I came from was an organisation that's largely waterfall, was trying to transition from waterfall to the Scaled Agile framework, which kind of misses the initial step of understanding Agile. So the Scaled Agile framework, the clue is in the name, it's Scaled Agile. Okay, it's about taking an Agile organisation and scaling it. And my interpretation of scaling is coordination between those Scrum teams. So the organisation I was in had 12 Scrum teams in this one transformation project, and trying to coordinate the people and the work in order to meet this common program objective was a very difficult challenge, even given this Scaled Agile framework and the kind of the prescriptive nature of that framework.
I mean, you'll be working, and people who will be implementing this will be working with people who are experiencing certain amounts of transition and change and finding their feet and things like this. But What are the sort of things that definitely need to be in place to avoid catastrophe?
So if you are making that leap from a waterfall world into a Scaled Agile framework, or any other Scaled Agile, without having been through the Agile learnings, you're going to be on unsteady ground. So you need to ensure that your organisation is familiar with the underlying Agile principles. So remember, Scrum is a framework, Kanban is a framework, Scaled Agile framework is a framework that bring to life the Agile principles and the Lean principles. So your organisation needs to understand the Agile and Lean principles as a solid grounding before you scale that. Because obviously if you make a mistake within a Scrum team, the impact is manageable. If you make that same mistake within a scaled organisation, trying to practice that, then the mistake can have greater ramifications, right? So you need to make sure that it's safe to fail is another conversation, but it's making sure your teams are aware of the underlying principles on which their framework is being built. Because once they understand the principles, then they can make the leap more easily to why they're following this framework. It's like, why do I deliver more frequently? How does that help?
And what are the most dramatic pitfalls that people fall into?
Okay, so without giving too much away, there's these people that may have been working in a waterfall world, so within an enterprise setting, they've been working in a set pattern for 30, 40 years, right? This is how I deliver software. I analyze, build, test, and I ship. And we have these long feedback cycles. All of a sudden, you turn around to them and say, right, no, you're going to have to deliver more frequently. Smaller iterations, you're not going to be able to hide away as much as you had done. And so they feel as if the rug has been pulled from under their feet. Everything they know is changing, and you need to support them in that. Right? So it's going to involve coaches, it's going to involve people who already have that Agile and Lean knowledge, coaching them on the way, helping them through to avoid those pitfalls. One interesting observation I made was people using Agile terminology, but continuing the underlying waterfall methodology. Right, so they're continuing the practices they've always been doing, but using the Agile words in some cases to get other people off their backs. Just to kind of like, yes, I've come to your sprint planning session, but in my head I've just changed that into requirements analysis. Okay, and what happens is different team members take different interpretations of the same Agile term, and so they behave differently according to those interpretations, and you end up not being aligned to that common goal, which is what the Scale Direct framework is trying to achieve. It's like we need to coordinate these 12 Scrum teams to align and deliver to meet this one goal. And yeah, when they're using different terminology, it breaks.
I mean, any project is inherently a people project. And how do you get lots of different people with lots of different skills and lots of different backgrounds and interests and aptitudes? How do you get them all working in harmony to a single goal?
Yeah. Well, that's obviously not an answer for this conversation. That's a much bigger conversation. But Weinberg quote, however it looks at first, it's always a people problem. Obviously, processes don't make themselves up. Someone made them up. Tools don't get implemented by themselves. Someone's implemented that tool. And so whenever you're implementing change of any kind, you're undoing somebody else's work. And that person may not be keen on you making that change, right? So getting everyone into this new page, it's giving them support. It's giving them the space to grow and learn. So one thing I talk about in my model is that learning runs all the way through it from top to bottom. You need to be continuously learning. You need to be understanding your context and understanding the impact to you personally and you within your team and within the other communities that you exist. And the decision makers need to give the development teams a space to learn and grow, to understand, and to foster that safe environment that it's okay to fail, right? First attempt in learning. So these people who've been doing the same thing day in, day out for 20, 30 years, you're giving them something new to do, right? And they're going to fail at it. And it's okay because that's how we learn, right? So give them the space to grow, learn from failures, celebrate failures, and ultimately, yeah, you're on that agile journey. So cliche, but it's you're taking a step in a direction. And yes, you have your program vision, which is your end state, but how you get there may change, and as you evolve to develop your processes over time.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thanks, John.